And joining us now is someone who witnessed those 21 months of dark days of Indian political history. Venkaiah Naidu, former Vice President of India, is joining me live from Hyderabad. Mr. Naidu, appreciate your time here on NDTV. Mr. Naidu, remember, doesn't speak often on or gives interviews, but he has agreed to give us time, so thank you. Sir, during the emergency, you were actively involved in the political resistance. Can you share a specific incident that profoundly impacted you and also shaped your resolve to fight as a young student against the authoritarian regime?
In fact, I was not in politics at the time, but I was a student activist. I have invited Sri Jayaprakash Narayan to university to address the students. Citing that as a reason, they have arrested me under visa. On 25th night, we received a message from our RSS elders that emergency is being imposed, we go to underground. So I slipped to underground, went to friends' places, and were going around place to place and pasting posters and also writing on the blackboards outside the Congress office. That's how we ran the campaign. In 25th September, I was caught by the police. I was inside for 17 and a half months during emergency.
Mr. Naidu, the emergency period saw widespread arrests and suppression of dissent. How did you and your peers maintain morale and solidarity in those months you spent in the jail?
In fact, I was preparing to enroll myself as an advocate because my mother, who died when I was 13 months old, her wish was that I should become an advocate. So I studied law and preparing myself to enroll as an advocate. But in between came this emergency. And once I was put inside the jail, there were all shades of people from Janasangh, from RSS, from left, extremist left, and also some old congressmen and all, were all there in jail. During that period, we used to discuss in the evenings about general issues and also discuss about the challenge posed by the authoritarian regime. And then there we have resolved to fight it out by opposing Indira ji once we are out of jail. My determination has grown really because of interaction with the various people, including veteran freedom fighters in the jail.
Sir, during those months, who was one leader whose words impacted and influenced you the most?
During that period, in our jail in Visakhapatnam, where I was a student, Andhra University, late Sri Tenedi Viswanathan, freedom fighter, minister in combined state of Andhra and Tamil Nadu, and also coffee board chairman. He was a veteran freedom fighter. We used to go to him in the evenings, generally when I was a student in the university, because he used to conduct discussions in the evening on literature, on public life. And we were impressed by him. But once in jail, we were there with him and also Sri late Gautu Latsanna, a stalwart for Swadra Party, associate of late N.G. Ranga. Those two people were there inside, along with Dr. Subramanya Sastry, RSS chief of the state. We were really inspired by these three personalities during the jail, and also, of course, there were a number of other people also. During our discussions, my resolve to fight against this authoritarian regime has got really more strengthened.
So, what was the reaction of your family? Because you said that your mother wanted you to be a lawyer, and your studies certainly suffered during those months in jail.
It's really, I must really pay compliments to my wife. I was married before I joined law because my relatives, they all pressurized me that mother is not there and father has become sufficiently old, so you get married once I completed my degree. Reluctantly, I got married, and my wife comes from a rural background, doesn't study beyond high school. So they were all really depressed. But she maintained morale in spite of other neighbors and all saying emergency means inside the jail only, there is no scope to come out and all. But she was strong enough to face that, and then she never complained also, because those days, once in a month, you were allowed to have an interview also. My wife said she will be writing letters. She wrote letters, she never came for the interview.
And reflecting on your personal experiences during emergency, Mr. Naidu, how did the curtailment of civil liberties and press censorship shape your political ideology and also your career?
Because of the restrictions imposed and the news we got, we used to get underground newspapers by RSS. And we used to get a lot of information what is happening outside. And then in the jail also, we used to have general discussions. During general discussions, because I was so young, we were totally opposed to this authoritarian regime where you are not allowed to go out for no fault of yours, and you are not allowed access to newspapers. Even the newspapers that are made available, they are censored. They used to put tar on that newspaper, any negative news about the government, etc. That was very, agitating in the minds, and then said, why this sort of this thing? What is the sin we have committed? So internally, during our discussions, we have resolved that we must really become strong, improve our health, eat enough, and then go out, and once you get an opportunity, we must teach her a lesson, because this authoritarianism is not acceptable, particularly during younger days. Your resolve and your determination will always be strong to fight injustice, to fight authoritarianism. And we were inspired by Jayaprakash Nan's speeches also, because we heard about the Navnirmana movement in Gujarat and also Chhatra Sangharsh Samiti movement in Bihar, which was against corruption, against price rise, later against authoritarianism. So that has really influenced our mind, our thinking also.
So looking back, sir, what lessons did you learn from the emergency that you believe are crucial for today's political leaders and activists also to understand and perhaps even apply in their efforts to safeguard democracy?
What is the value of liberty? People can live without food for some days, but you cannot live without free expression, because that is more important, more fundamental for anybody's life. So that being the case, we were eager to come out and then fight against this authoritarianism. The eternal vigilance is the price one has to pay for liberty. Be always active. Be in touch with what is happening and do your might as a responsible citizen. That is the lesson one has to learn. For the younger generation of today, they may not be aware of what was emergency, and then they might have read here and there about some imposition of emergency and all. But one should know what is emergency, how fundamental rights were curtailed, how freedom of press, freedom of expression, freedom of movement were all curtailed, and how they have impacted even the other walks of life, even including judiciary also. All these things, I think there has to be a lesson and a chapter in the history books of the students, so that the younger generation is made aware of the emergency, the draconian black chapter in India's democratic this thing, and also to guard against any such effort by anybody at any time.
Sir, the editorial that you have written today, in that you emphasize the importance of educating the younger generation about emergency. What specific measures do you believe should be implemented in the current educational curriculum to ensure that this dark period in Indian democracy is adequately covered?
Yeah, what is democracy? What is freedom of expression? What is freedom of press? What is freedom of liberty? All these things, they should be part of the history. And also, threat to democracy and what is dictatorship in various forms, in various places, that also should be part of history for the students. And then the effects of emergency, how many people were arrested, who are the great people who were arrested, and how the media was censored, all these details, chronology of events, and that led to the so-called imposition of emergency. Why this provision of emergency in the Constitution, Article 352, Clause 1, why this provision was made at all? That was made initially to take care of external aggression or internal disturbances. Later, during Janata Party's regime, even this provision for internal disturbance also was removed because there is no scope for internal disturbances. This is what they thought at the time, right? So all these things, the younger generation should read the history. It should be made available to them so that they can guard against such any authoritarian tendencies at any level in any government or in any form of government.
My last question to you, sir. Today, of course, marks 50 years of emergency. As a young Venkaiah then to now, what are your thoughts?
See, I was young, 25-year-old at that time. I have just completed my studies. And the emergency, the experiences, the remembrance and my thoughts sometimes gives me more determination to educate the people, prepare the younger generation to fight any injustice, to fight against corruption. These are all some of the thoughts that come to me, and also the JP comes in front of me. Those ideas of following JP, I traveled along with JP from Visakhapatnam to the Andhra border, Tamil Nadu. And then during underground, I met late Kamaraj Nadar along with Sri Neelam Sanjeev Reddy, who later became President of India, and also Gautam Ratsanna, freedom fighter. And also the days I spent in underground for those 2 months, going around different parts and then pasting wall posters and writing on the blackboards against emergency. Those thoughts really make me more energetic even now also.
All right, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, really appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to NDTV.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. Thank you, NDTV.